So my understanding is that you wanted to go over the group functionality.
Right.
Okay. Were there specific questions that you had in mind?
Well, we wanted to know how to write group notes, because sometimes we serve more than one person at a time.
Good. Okay. Well, that's fairly straightforward. So group notes happen under services. So I'm going to go here to services, and I'm going to choose a training program. We don't want to write clients, so I'll choose, I can't remember which training program we were in before. Let's try Training Community Hub. And the group functionality is always on the right-hand side of the page. And I'll go to group notes. So this is what it looks like when you don't have any scheduled groups. This is sort of the standard or the default way of looking at things. So I'm going to write a new group note. This is the name of my program, and this is who I'm logged in as. The date range, do you guys understand the date range and what that means?
That's how far back you can write or see notes?
How far back you can write and edit notes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, it will also determine, to your point, it will also determine, because this is an index, what we're looking at here. This is a list. Right now, the list has nothing on it. But this will also determine, you're right, how many days worth of notes you will see on the list here on the what we call an index. It doesn't mean that once a note is older than this many days that you won't be able to ever see it again. It just means you won't see it on the index.
Okay.
Right? Now, there's a permission that's called backdating permission. So if someone does need to write a group note that's older than this many days, if you give them the right permission, then that writer, if you give that writer the permission, then when they log in, this number will go to a bigger number. Usually it's 45. And then that means that they will be able to backdate a note that's up to 45 days old. And they'll also see on this list here, they will see notes that are up to 45 days old.
Okay.
Now
well, I guess I'm concerned that it's saying 10 days because we had decided we didn't want to have a date range, at least not to begin with. Is there any way to remove the range?
No, you have to have some date range. Let me show you where the date range lives, though. I'm going to go to the home screen and go to administration. So those date ranges are what we call a business rule. Okay. And the business rules are accessible by your agency. So the place that I'm in now is a place that your agency can go in and control. So, and you can set the policy on a program-by-program basis. So, is there any one group that's represented in the room there today? Are we talking to mostly IRIS staff or Prevoke staff? Or who am I talking to today?
We're talking to, it's a mix of Community Hub and Employment and Prevoke.
Okay, so I'll just go into like training community Prevoke because I don't want to set any real policies, right? So if I choose a program here, what I want to go into is called note and contact editing rules. And this is where the policy gets set, right? So the standard window is 10 days and the backdating window is 45. So this is when we give you your database for the very first time, this is what it comes with. But your agency can edit that. So if you wanted no policy to start out with, then probably what you want to do is you probably want to make the standard like 365 days, which means that they can write or edit a note that's up to a year old. And then this just has to be at least one day larger, one number larger.
Okay.
Right, so if you wanted this 365 or something like that, like I'm making that up, obviously it could be like 180. I mean, that's plenty of time, right? You don't really want people to be writing notes that are, 3 months old, I don't think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is where you set the policy, and then the policy can change. So after a while, like you say, if you go from something really large, like from 180, and your staff sort of get the hang of it, and you want to move it to something a little bit more reasonable and make it 10 or 15 or even 30, you just come back here and you change the policy.
Okay, great.
And like I say, the policies can be different for every program at your agency if you want. Because the policy is on a program-by-program basis. Yeah. So let me go back here. I'm going to go to group notes again for, where was I in originally? Training Community Hub. and go to group notes. And again, this is what it looks like when there are no scheduled groups. And I have the 10-day editing window. So I'm going to create a new note. So that's selected for me. I'm going to click continue. And here's my roster, right? There's like 7 people in this program. So I'm going to choose the date that the group took place, right? And this is where I'm going to see that 10-day rule in effect, right? I can't go back further than 10 days here. And when I choose a date here, the page, you may notice the page is going to blink fairly quickly. The page blinks, and the reason it blinks is it's going to look to see, well, was it still those same 7 people that were in the program on that date, right? So if Joe Smith got admitted on, 5/27, if I were to choose 5/24, then when the page blinks, he would disappear from here because he wasn't in the program on that date, right? So that's why the page blinks when you choose a date here. So the group has to have a name, and it has to have a start time and an end time. Oops. So we'll just make mine an hours group. And you see that the duration calculates automatically. The service types are going to be different, of course, for your different program types, right? So I'm in Training Community Hab, so these are the Training Community Hab service types. But your other programs will have a different list here, but you still have to choose what the group was about when you're writing it. So even though you're choosing from a different list, you still have to choose here. And then the types is also an easily configurable list. So what type of a group is this? Was it a community meal, discussion group, expressive arts? This is our default list, but your agency has easy access to add to this list. So if you had therapy groups or something like that, you could create, well, there was group therapy right there, but if there was some other group type, you could add it very easily, and then once you added it, you would see it appear in this drop-down.
Okay, we will definitely be doing that.
Okay, your agency has, for the Community Hab, this is not really a location. This is a ratio.
Right.
That's the folks in Community Hab probably understand that even a little bit better than I do, because that's sort of a creative use of the location. But in other programs, you'll see an actual list of locations. And then you're going to check off the names of the people that attended the group. When you check them off, you're going to see that the page blinks a little bit, and the time of the group up here will also appear for their names here. And the reason that happens is because if Lisa was late for group, you don't want to check her in at 1, you want to check her in at the time she actually came in. Right? Or if Piggly Wiggly here left early, you want to make sure that Piggly Wiggly doesn't get credit for group time that he or she was not there. So that these open up so that you can edit people's start and end times. Does that make sense?
That does. That's great.
Okay. And then the group note goes here, keeping in mind that this is going into everyone's chart. So you don't want to put any client identifying information in the group note. You could indicate a client was disruptive or a client was late or something like that. But you wouldn't want to put identifying information in here because that's going into everyone's chart. And then when you click Save Note, you have written a group note. And your group note is considered essentially done, but there is an additional option that you have. And this is optional. It's turned on by default, but it's optional whether you're going to use it. And that is if you wanted to make an individual addendum. So if you wanted to say that, Lisa was late for group, or Lisa, disclosed something personal or whatever, all you need to do on this page is choose Lisa's name here and click the Make Note Addendum button. It brings me back to the same page I was on, but now you'll notice that there is a second note box, and this is only going into Lisa's chart. So and then I can use her name, and it's only going into her chart. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a nice option.
Okay. Yeah. And then I'll click Save Note.
Can I just ask about the individual addendum? So say you had the group, and then at the end, Lisa stayed later. You could change the time in the group note, and it would show the full amount of time you spent with her?
Well, yes, but here's the thing. Let me go into edit this group note here. So I said the group went from 1 to 2. But if Lisa stayed till 2:15, right, if she went beyond the group length, then what happens, what's supposed to happen, maybe it only happens after I save the note. I haven't tested this in a long time. Yeah, so the group time changes, right? Because if she was part of the group till 2:15, then really the group went till 2:15.
Oh, okay.
Right.
You can't capture that time. Okay.
Not here. I mean, I captured it here, right? I said she stayed till 2:15, and the group now changed to 2:15 because that went beyond, right? Now, this person's note time didn't change, and this person's note time didn't change. But the group now looks like it went, the group now looks like it met for an hour and 15 minutes instead of just an hour. Now, the other option you would have is, you know, if Lisa stayed after and she was disclosing something one-on-one, you might consider ending the group at 2 and then just writing a 15-minute individual progress note for her. Because it really is just a one-on-one thing. Yeah. I can't speak to the ratio, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So if something happens throughout the event, so to speak, then you either need to stop it at that time, at the time your ratio changes, so that then you can either do a second note or individual note.
Yes.
I mean, that's what's going to be the thing, because I was thinking about it in terms of someone leaving work early, that changes our ratio.
But if it's, right now it's 1 to 3 plus, so if we have 5 and 1 leaves early, we can start using the ratio for support in the plan.
For other services.
So just to be clear, if I haven't already, I don't really understand your use of the ratio, so I can't really address that, but that would be something that you could definitely, if you had questions, you could definitely talk to Sarah about.
Yep, and I think we'll get to that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that's the basics of writing a group note. Now, do you have regularly occurring groups, like reoccurring groups that happen, you know, like relapse prevention or something like that? It happens every Thursday at 2 or something like that?
We have a group respite that's basically every Saturday. 4 out of 4 Saturdays, left the holidays.
Okay, so group schedule. I'm sorry?
I was just thinking about, it's not a service plan linked note if it's a group note. So it can't be linked.
No, you can have service plan linked notes in group notes. So let me show you how that works. Would this be particularly for Community Hab or some other program?
Well, it could be for supported employment, OPWDD. It would be Community Hab because they have goals they need to work on, but they might work on very similar goals.
Okay, so let me find. Tell me the name of the training program I should use.
Use training supported employment OPWDD.
Okay, so the first thing is that you have to have scheduled groups. So I'm going to go into training supported employment OPWDD and say that there is a regular group of some sort. So have you guys have you seen group schedule set up before, or should I go as if I'm okay. So let me do this from scratch. So the idea of group schedule setup is that if you have reoccurring, regularly scheduled groups, and this is necessary if you want to link people's participation in groups to their service plan. So the first thing that we're presuming is that you have a scheduled group. So let me go over the process of scheduling your group. Now, there are many reasons someone might schedule a group. You can schedule groups even if you're not planning to link them to service plans. I just want to be clear about that, but it is required if you're going to link them to service plans. So the first thing these buttons are sort of in the order in which you want to think about them. So the first thing when you're scheduling a group is you want to think of, does the type of group that I'm about to schedule exist? Does the type exist? So this is where I was talking about those types can be configured. So I'm going to go into configure types here, and we'll see the list that has already been configured, right? So this is the list that's already been configured. If I wanted to add another type, all I need to do is click on the little plus icon, create the name, click Save, and that type would get added to the list of types, which is listed here. So that's all. If the type doesn't exist, all you need to do is create it, right? If it
So
already exists, I'm sorry?
Will we always see those and then just add, or can we configure that completely?
Well, the work that I'm doing now, the group schedule setup work, is sort of behind the scenes, not usually necessarily one time, but it's usually like 1 or 2 times setup work that once you've got it created, you generally don't usually have to go back here very often. When you're writing the group note, you don't have to touch this. When you're writing the note, what you have done here will show up so that you can use it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Hmm?
Yeah. So in the group schedule setup, again, the first thing you want to do is check to see if the type of group that you're about to create exists. If the type already, if I'm about to schedule a discussion group or a therapy group, there's nothing I need to do. It's like, oh, look, it's already there on the list. So I can just go back to group schedule setup and go to the next step. So there's not always something to do here other than check to make sure it exists. And if it doesn't, you just create it. So then the next part of this process is to essentially name your group. So I'm going to go into configure activities. And for training supported employment, for the training program anyways, there are no group names created yet, or they would be listed here. So I'm going to click on Add New. Can you give me the name of what might be a group for this program?
Cleaning Enclave.
Well, Cleaning Enclave would be the group.
Okay, yeah, that's it. What was it called? I couldn't quite make that out.
Cleaning.
Cleaning.
And then Enclave, E-N-C-L-A-V-E.
Okay. Okay. And then this is where those types show up, right? The thing that we did on the previous step. So if this is a group therapy or social group or tenant meeting or community-based activity, right? You have to choose something from here.
Sure.
So just for today, I'm going to say group therapy, right? Now, do any of these groups have capacities? Like you're not supposed to have more than 15 people in a group at any one time?
Yep, 8.
8? Okay. So what you put here won't actually prevent you from adding more than 8 people to the group. It basically just creates what is essentially like a warning, if you will. You'll see this when I move forward. So I'm going to say that the group capacity for Cleaning Enclave is 8. And I'm going to click Save. And now I'm back on that same index, except now instead of a blank index, I now have the group called Cleaning Enclave on there, right? So I'm going to go back to group schedule setup. So we did this step. We did this step. The next step then is to put that group on a schedule. Like when does that group meet? So does the Cleaning Enclave group meet on a regularly scheduled basis?
Every day.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. I'm guessing because you want to put this on service plans that you have expected members. In other words, there's a subset of your roster that goes on Monday, which is, I'm guessing, a different subset than those people that attend on Tuesday? Or is it the same subset that attends 5 days a week?
No.
So it's a different subset. Okay, so what that means is this activity probably should have been named, just to make this easier, Monday, right? And the reason being is because the next step is to, one of the steps is to say who is a member of that group, and you don't want, you want a different set of members for the Monday group than you do from the Tuesday group, than you do from the Wednesday group, which means they have to be set up as separate groups, which is why I named that one Monday.
We'll have to go in almost every day, though, and change those groups because we have people who do and don't work depending on their illness, their vacation, whatever.
No. So, well, it depends, right? So in order to, well, let me show you the whole functionality, and let's revisit that question.
Okay.
All right? So the next step would be to put it on a schedule. So I'm going to, here, there's only one activity that I can put on a schedule. And because this one was named Monday, we're going to say that this is a Monday group. And location, this is a completely configurable list. Your agency also has the ability to configure this location list. You could also say other and then say, group room or, something like that. That's fine. The start date. Now, this basically means is essentially when do we want to start using awards to record attendance at this group. And the only trick here is that this is a Monday group, as designated here, this date has to be a Monday. Now, in real life, this could be a future date. Right? I'm setting this up to start next week. But when we're practicing, I can't have a future date or this won't work the way I expect it to. So I'm going to go back and say that this one started on May 1st, which is a Monday. Now, if this is an open-ended group, I don't have to put an end date. Right? If this is a 6-week group and I know when it's ending, I could put an end date and then it'll drop off the calendar as of that end date. So what time does this group meet?
Well, are we talking about billing times or are we talking about work times? So if we're looking at billing,
I understand the difference.
I think it's billing time.
Billing time, I would say 3 p.m.
3 p.m. And is it an hour?
No, end time would be 9 p.m.
Wow, okay.
They're working.
And this, yeah. And this is weekly. It's every Monday, right? And is there a regularly expected group leader?
We'll make
or not? Or does it change?
Well, it does
okay.
change.
If it changes, then the group leader is not required.
Okay.
You can leave this blank. Then I'm going to click Continue to save it. Right? So I'm going to go back to group schedule setup. The next thing to do is to indicate group member status. Now, this is what's key to linking it to a service plan. You have to have expected members in an activity in order to have it work with their service plan. So here are the fake people in my fake program, and when did they join the group. The only rule here is that this date cannot be before the client's admission date. If it is before their admission date, I'll get an error message. You can have more than 4 people in a group. We just let you do 4 at a time. So if I did, these 4 and then saved it, I've got wrong dates here. 5/16 is when they all joined. If I did these 4, let me just paste these in here and then save it. When I click Return to Data Entry, I'll see space for 4 more.
Okay.
So I can have as many expected members as I want to.
Because we said that the capacity was 8, would we be able to add a 9th person?
Yeah. The only thing that capacity does is it displays it up here. It doesn't prevent you from adding the 9th or 10th person.
Okay.
Okay. When we first built that capacity, I think the idea was that we wanted to have it limited, and then we talked to clients, and they were like, well, occasionally we'll let a 9th person in, and your software wouldn't let us. So we said, okay, we'll just display it up here. So I've got 4 people as expected members in my my Cleaning Enclave group, and their start date in the group was 5/16. So before I look at the service plan linkage part of this, let me just go and show you how the group note works right now. And then I'll go back and I'll talk about the linkage to service plans. So now that I have a scheduled group, when I go to group notes, now my drop-down looks a little different. Right now I should say my group notes editing index looks a little different, because instead of just no choice here, I have a choice between writing an unscheduled group or choosing my scheduled group. Right? So when I choose my scheduled group here and move forward, a couple of things are going to happen. One is, because this is a group that was scheduled for Monday, Awards is choosing the most recent Monday. Now, it's editable, so in case Monday was a holiday and we met on the 30th instead, that's not a problem, right? It's editable, but it suggests the most recent Monday. It knows the name of the group. It knows the expected start time and the expected end time of the group, right? I'm still going to have to choose the service type, like what was the focus of this group, right? And you can choose anything from this list, including other. And then here's your ratios again. Okay. Now, these were the expected members. Remember, I had 4 expected members? So they're showing up here by default. Now, is it ever the case for a scheduled group that maybe the case manager says, you should go try out this group, even though you're not technically enrolled, you should go participate and see if you like this group?
Yes,
Something like that ever happen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this Show Full Program Roster button here will pull in the rest of the roster who are not expected members. So when I click Show Full Program Roster, the page is going to blink, and now we see the 2 other people who maybe, you know, maybe Mary Poppins was told to show up for group, and I can check off her name there. This does not make her an expected member. It just means she showed up to the 529 group.
Would you still be able to write a service plan link note with her even though she's not an expected member?
Nope. You cannot. You can only, it'll only show as a service plan linked group note if she's an expected member.
Okay.
We're going to make it.
And you'll see why in a moment. Anyways, what I would do is, and then here, even my expected members, right? Johnny Drama, you know, canceled. I can say that he didn't show up even though he's an expected member, right? Or I could say that, you know, Summer Day was a no-show, right?
Okay.
So even though they're expected members, you're not locked into having them attend. One other difference here, and this will be more important when we look at service plan linked group notes, is that you get automatic, those addendum boxes that we talked about before are automatically there for expected members.
Great.
Right? So they're automatically there. Now, if Mary Poppins did attend the group, she doesn't get an addendum box until after I save the note, and then I say I want to add an addendum for Mary. I still can write I can still write an addendum for Mary, but I have to save the note first and then add the addendum for Mary. Whereas the regularly scheduled group folks already have addendum boxes there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would simply write the note and save it, and the rest then it's the same. But I don't want to save this particular note because I want to show you service plan linked group notes first. All right.
Question.
So I'm not going to save it, but all I would do here. Sorry?
I have a quick question. Is the list that says present, canceled, or no-show, can that be configured?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, if there's like, what were you thinking? How would you configure it?
Well, because I'm not sure that scheduling each day of the week is going to necessarily work. We have too many substitutions and people that kind of trickle in and trickle out. And so I just wanted to look at maybe having the option of not scheduled.
Oh.
I know this doesn't make sense, but it does on our end.
Yeah, I kind of get it. I kind of get it.
But they were a substitute, that's why they're there that day.
Yeah.
But we can make them mean our own.
Yeah, we don't that's not configurable.
Okay, just checking.
Is the reason for absence category configurable?
This is just a text box.
Okay.
This is to say why they were absent, you know.
Sorry.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not going to, all I would do is write this note. The only thing boxes required is this one. These are not required down here. I would just write the note and save it, and that would be how I would write a group note for a scheduled group. But I don't want to save this because I don't want to messy things up before I show you the service plan part of this. So I'm going to not save this. I'm going to go to the home screen and talk to you about service plans and how they interact with group notes. So I'm going to go to services here. And for training supported employment, I'm going to go to plans and reviews. and I'm going to work with summer day here. And summer day's start date in that group was 5/17. So what that means is I'm going to schedule, so her latest review here was 4/21. I'm going to schedule a review for her that is, let me think. After 5/17. So let me see, let me go back here. So 4/21, so we'll say 5/21, which is after the 17th. And this is a review, and I'll choose myself as the reviewer. And then when I click save, it's going to ask me, do I want to copy the data? And the answer is yes, I want to copy the data. Oh, looks at a nice profile here. So then when I'm adding something to the plan here, so here is the new valued outcome, and we'll say it doesn't, what I'm choosing here is relatively irrelevant, but this is not irrelevant, right? The service type is what's going to make this linkable to the group note, right? So whatever I choose here for this, the item I'm adding to her plan is also going to be what I write the note about, right? So we'll call this other workplace support services. I'm just choosing that out of my hat, right? So here is the description of the goal, and here is how the service will support the valued outcome. This is almost as good as la la la, isn't it? Methodology goes here. And then the measurement of success, here is how we measure the outcome. And I'm going to click save. Oh, you know what? I'm missing something. Why is that not showing up? Let me think here for a minute. Let me go back here. That should, so 5/16. And that's after 5/16. What am I missing? Wait a minute. Did I choose the wrong client before? Let me, I'm not seeing what I expected to see here, so let me try this again. Here is the new valued outcome. Elizabeth, can you take a look at this? Hold on, I'm going to ask a colleague. So I went to group schedule setup, training supported, group member status, cleaning enclave, summer day, 5/16 in the group. And then I go to services, and I go to plans and reviews, and I choose summer day. And this is after 5/17. And in the add valued outcome, I'm not seeing.
So it has to be added as a custom section to that part of it.
Oh, the plan wasn't built that way. Oh, I thought it showed up automatically. Aha. Interesting. Okay. So let me ask you folks a question. Did was group linkages demonstrated for you before, and if so, for which programs?
No, and we didn't know it was possible, I don't think.
I mean, we knew there were group notes, but that was nothing we ever really touched on, so that's why we were looking for training.
And that's why we have the location be our ratio, so that we are able to write a group note and bill in the group setting. So we discussed needing to be able to write group notes through the location ratio.
Okay. So hold on one second. Elizabeth, do you know in certification is there a program set up for group linkages? Okay. I'm going to go to a fake database here where there's one that's set up. Okay. Oh. Oh, yeah. Sessions last name? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. So here we go. So let me show you this now. I'm going to go to services. Thank you, Elizabeth. So I go to group schedule setup and go to group member. Let me go to individual status here. And I'm going to show you that this particular client is in many groups. He's in 3 levels of yoga and a cooking class. So what that looks like in the way that you've seen it here is if I go to group member status and I choose Yoga 1, we'll see that Expo Session 1, that's the name of our fake client, started in this group as a 4-1, right? So then when I go to service plans for that client, I'm going to add a review here for a date that's after that particular date, and it's going to ask me if I want to copy it. I do want to copy it. And then in the, we call them goals, yours are labeled something different, but when I add something here, you'll see that these checkboxes are here. That's what I was missing before. So this needs, if you want to use this, this needs to be configured for your plan. So you'd need to speak to Sarah about getting that added. It's very simple. It shouldn't take long. But now here, when I say here is the, we'll call this valued outcome because that's the language that you're used to. And here is the, I can't remember what it was called on your plan. And then these can be added at the objective level or at the goal level or at the intervention level, right? You need to work with Sarah to decide that. Here is the intervention. And then this is your service type list. So obviously this is different than your service type list. So I'll call this conflict resolution. And I'll say that this is related to yoga, right? Because everyone knows that yoga helps with conflict resolution. And then I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to put an effective date in because that's what you need to do. And we'll say that this was effective as of May 30th. I'm going to save it. It's going to warn me that I'm about to lock the plan. I know that, so I just want to click Save. So now there's 2 things in place, right? This person is an expected member of a group, and on the service plan, we indicated that this particular item on their plan is sort of linked to their participation in that group. So now the way that shows up in group notes, I'm going to write this for Yoga Level 1. And we see that there is Expo Session 1 as an expected member of the group. The trick is I have to choose the service type that matches the service type of the item on the plan, right? So this is this met on 5/29. This is a 5 to 6 group, right? We can, there would normally be more than one person here, of course. And then here's the main group note. But the key comes in when I use the individual addendum. Here is the addendum for this client linked to the plan. I'm going to click Save Note. Oh, really? Attendance conflict. Oh, they've already been in this group on that date. So let me see if I can just change the date and see if I can get this to work. There we go. So now, it was the same process of writing the group note, but here we see that because the service type matched and the group matched, then it's pulling in the goal, objective, and intervention from the plan along with the addendum note that I wrote.
Jack, I have a question. If you were to go back and they have to have the same service type for all, say, 3 people in a group, if someone didn't, for some reason, you pulled 3 people and only 2 of those people had that same service type, is there a fail-safe where it's going to tell you, you know, PERD doesn't have that service type?
No, but let me show you what would happen. Let me go into, oh, I went to the completely wrong place. Let me go to group schedule setup for Yoga 1. Oh, I'm in yours. Let me go to there, sorry. I'm really in the wrong place. So I'm going to go to group schedule setup, and I'm going to group member status. And for Yoga 1, we're going to add Sally Appleby to this group. Now, Sally's service plan doesn't have anything on it about her participation in this group, right? She's an expected member of the group, but her service plan doesn't have anything on it, right? So when I go to write a group note, let me edit this group note. And now we see that Sally, I'm going to make her present here. Sally still attended the group, right? And I can still write an addendum for Sally. But when I click Save Note, we're going to see that Sally doesn't list her objective, goal, and intervention. It just shows her addendum. So she still gets credit for being in the group, and it's still a conflict resolution service that she was delivered. It's just not linked to anything on her plan.
Can you go back to where you write the note, because the staff aren't able to see any of the, other than the fact of the service type, they aren't able to see anything more specific than conflict resolution. Okay. I'm just trying to think about how that's going to work and trying to make sure that our staff are writing notes that are billable and relatable to that service.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that there is a way to have the service type default to a service type that you want. I don't know if that will help with what you are talking about. But I think there's a way to get it to default, but that's a configuration discussion to have with Sarah.
Sure. Absolutely.
So you could have as many expected members as you want. Right, so these are my unexpected members. This is the rest of my roster, and these are the expected members.
And to write on more than one service type, you would have to break your times up in the day. Like if you wanted to address with Sally, Appleseed or whatever her name is there, conflict resolution and I don't know, hygiene.
Yep.
You'd have to break up your time throughout the day.
You couldn't have for the whole time twice with 2 different service types, so it's overlapping?
No, people can't be in 2 groups at the same time. The software will stop you. I mean, oddly, progress notes will not stop you. So you could write 2 progress notes that are service plan linked.
Yeah, we're actually doing that.
So I'm not sure. It sounds like this might not be the perfect solution, but again, I'm going to encourage you to talk to Sarah about, sort of. I'm here to show you how it works, but she's the right person to talk to about, making awards work for you.
I think so, but I think that part of the thing is not knowing this information ahead of planning or what we wanted for service plans and other things that we were setting up. It's hard to configure.
Right. Yeah, I can let Sarah know.
I think that it certainly has value, though. I think it's a time saver.
I mean, and this is all for scheduled groups. Community Rehabilitation and respite have unscheduled group notes that need to be written, and they're directly linked to the individual service plan. So it would be a daily service record note for the plan. So that's where we were coming in. Sometimes we might have someone that just takes two people out to dinner because they both said, I haven't been out to dinner,
right.
And the staff goes and checks with the office and knows that that would be compatible. How would we go about that?
Well, if you can't go about that using our group functionality, right? You can't indicate that someone's participation in a group was linked to something on their service plan if they weren't an expected member of a group. The only workaround I can think of would be, instead of writing a group note, just write an individual progress note for each person that attended.
Or could you just schedule a one-time group, make them expected members, and then write the note?
Yep, you can do that. If you go to, in fact, we have a feature that's built for that. If I go to group schedule setup, and I want to, I'm going to configure an activity here, and we'll call this maybe an orientation, right?
But that information would still have to be linked back to the plan as a group.
They both have to have the service that matched, right?
Yep.
Which, if somebody doesn't have that in their plan and the staff calls in the morning and says, can we do that?
Then you just can't use the group note functionality.
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. The only way to link something to a plan is to have it be part of their plan.
But it may work for Saturday Club, something like that.
Right. This would work for Saturday Club.
Yeah. Or even Youth Club.
Yep.
Oh, I think there's other.
Did you want to see the one-time?
I don't think so. Right, with the one-time.
Yeah, I think probably not.
Okay.
For our group respite programs, there is not a plan associated. So writing the group note, because we could schedule a group, and we know it happens every Saturday. We know these 29 people are participants at some point.
Yeah, so let me show you. That's pretty straightforward, I think. So if I go to, let me go back to your database here. If I go to group schedule setup and I create an activity, I don't have to have expected members. So you called this, what was the name of the activity? You called it a Saturday? No. Was that right?
Saturday Club.
Saturday Club. Okay, and we'll call this community-based activity just for the heck of it. Okay. I'll click Save. I'll go back to group schedule setup. So I can put it on a schedule and say that the Saturday Club meets on, I'm guessing, Saturdays.
We try to keep it easy over here.
So clever. I am so clever. Okay. How long is the Saturday group?
Well, 6 hours.
Yeah, it's a 6-hour day.
Well.
Okay. So what time does it start?
It's about 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, this happens weekly. So now I checked the types, I created an activity called Saturday, and I put it on a schedule, but it sounds like the people that attend are going to change every single Saturday.
For the most part,
is that right? Okay.
Yeah, we can
I'm sorry?
I can say we have 29 participants, but only 10 attend per weekend.
Yeah, and it could be any 10, right? Yeah, so then I would probably stay away from this button here, group member status. And then let me show you how it shows up. When I go to write the group note, when I go to group notes here and I choose the Saturday club, because I don't have any expected members, then my whole roster shows up. So there'd be 29 people listed here, and I could just check off the 10 that attended.
That's so great. Yes. Yeah. Yep. We write these notes on the Monday after we get the info from transit. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Right.
That's perfect.
And again, because I don't have any expected members, I don't have any automatic addendums. But after I save the note, location is required, sorry. After I save the note, then I can add addendums here by clicking there, and then saying, if I needed to, Mary was, engaged or whatever, right. So I can write addendums as I wish, even though they're not expected members.
That's perfect for RESPEC. Yeah.
That's good.
It's worth our time in your call. And
What else about groups?
Oh, I don't. Have any questions? Are there any other options or functionality about groups that we don't know about, that we might need to know about?
Well, the only thing that I can think of, and I'm assuming that Sarah already considered this in case you needed it, and that's activities. Activities is basically the ability to record attendance at a group activity without actually writing any narrative, right? So I know some agencies use this for things that are perhaps non-therapeutic, and I got to tell you, I don't know how this interacts with billing. But you can create activities and take attendance at activities without writing a note. So if I went here to group activities, I can choose, from activities that were created, right? I would create them just the same. Now, if I choose a day of the week that matches the day it's supposed to meet, so there's already a group note written for that. So let me choose a different Saturday. If I choose a day of the week where that's supposed to meet, then the times automatically fill in, right? Because it meets on Saturday, and I said I was recording for a Saturday, so it knows the time. And then I can just check off who attended, right? Click Enter Clock Times. It shows the clock times, and I click Update and Finish. And now, basically, I've recorded activities attendance without writing a note.
Awesome. That will be useful to us. Yep.
we're thinking about payroll.
Okay. Yeah, that's useful. The group
so those get set up in the same way. As long as we're talking about it, let me just show you that if I were to choose, so I said Wednesday, but I choose a group that was scheduled for non-Wednesday. What'll happen, I can still do it, but what'll happen is awards doesn't know the start time and the end time.
Okay.
Because I created a mismatch, so I can still record it, but I'd have to choose the start time and the end time.
And maybe we use that with youth club because we never know which day that's going to be. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but if this relates to billing, then be sure you double check with Sarah about that. But in terms of group functionality, those are it. Now we have the ability to turn on. I don't think you need outreach mailing. So yeah, that's basically it. We have the ability to turn on group attendance form. I don't know if that's turned on for you. Yeah, it's not turned on, at least for the training program. The group attendance form basically is something that was just intended to be printed out. It's not used in awards, but it pulls from awards. So if I click group attendance form, it's going to ask me what date range and which activity. And then when I click continue, it gives me basically, something I could print out. Right now, I can mark, things here, but this is not saved. This is not actually entered. Right? You see, there's no save button or entered button or anything like that. if I printed it out, I would I would see what I see here right on the page. And if other people showed up, you know, then on the printed page, I could write in their names.
Oh, okay.
On
the other one that you had where you didn't have to write the note, it was just the activity. Could somebody sign off on that? Like, could the job coach sign off on this time in and time out?
Well, we don't have electronic signatures there, if that's what you mean.
That is what I mean.
Yeah, we don't have electronic signatures on group activities.
But we do on group notes, right?
Yep.
That might be it. Unless we sign it out, print it out and sign it or something.
Well, we have to print it out for accounting anyway, because then we have to do transportation, co-pay, and that.
Okay. All right. Well, you've given us a lot to think about.
Well, that's good. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm going to stop the recording here. I am